Hello everyone, welcome to another Ed Talks Film video. My name is Ed, I'm here to talk to you about film, and today we are talking about the newest Pedro Almodovar movie, Parallel Mothers. Parallel Mothers is a film about two women, Janice and Anna. Janice is I want to say woman in her 40s, she's a photographer. She does fashion shoots, and she becomes pregnant and ends up in the same room in a Spanish hospital as this young teen girl, Anna, who also is pregnant. The two of them have differing opinions about their pregnancy and whether or not they're excited about it. And you basically get to watch them sort of deal with their motherhood as well as see what their relationships are like, specifically Anna with her mother and Janice with a man who works for a historical society. And you basically watch the whole movie and watch them interact, and then there's also a subplot about the effects of the Spanish Civil War on all of this and Spain and social classes, and it's an Almodovar movie and it's melodramatic. This is the first Pedro Almodovar movie I've ever seen, and in watching it, there were things I expected, there were things I didn't expect at all. Things I expected: beautiful, amazing colors. I really, really like the colors in this movie. I think the set design is really, really great. I think they really knocked it out of the park with the production design. It's a very pleasing movie to look at, to an extent. One thing that threw me off, though, was there's a soap opera-y effect with the film, and I'm not sure if that is because it was shot at 30 frames per second and then was turned into 24 frames per second, or if it was an issue with the shutter speed not being at a 180-degree angle. Either way, I understand that it's a stylistic choice, but it threw me off for the first 10 minutes of this movie. However, as it went on, I completely forgot about it at all. That's just sort of how it goes when you get engrossed into a story. And that's the thing about this movie, is that I actually was really engrossed in the story for a lot of it. I was interested in these two women, especially Penelope Cruz's character, Janice. I think she was a very, very strong part of this movie. The acting in this movie is very, very good. The woman who plays the mother of Anna, I believe her name is Teresa. She does a really, really great job. I was actually very interested in her story, and I was kind of disappointed that we actually didn't get to see that much of her in the movie. She's here, she shows up a lot in the first act and sort of for half of the second act, but then she sort of disappears a little bit as the movie goes on and goes on towards its conclusion. Another thing that I thought was very interesting about the movie specifically was how they were going to deal with this whole thing about the Spanish Civil War. Now, I love history. I really, really do love history. And I love watching filmmakers from other countries deal with the history of their countries in their films. Because I'm an American, and I'm semi well versed in American history. There's a lot of things I know about and that I like seeing get talked about in films as little tidbits and historical throwbacks in films that really, really get me excited, especially when it's a small niche thing. However, I'm not super well versed in world history as a whole. I wasn't aware that the Spanish Civil War was still such an affecting thing in Spain. So it was nice to actually see a movie talk about that and really go semi-in-depth about it, which I think leads to part of why I felt like this movie was a mixed bag for me, which was that, there's this plot about these two women who are pregnant and they're dealing with being mothers, right? And the different aspects of their lives. Then that ultimately turns into another plot all on its own, which I won't spoil. Then there's the Spanish War, the Spanish Civil War subplot that's happening on the periphery, that weaves in and out of the story and then ultimately disappears, weirdly enough, for almost two whole acts of the film. And then there's a subplot about Janice and this man Arturo, and then there's a subplot about Anna and her mother. There's a lot of things that this movie's juggling. and a lot of very interesting ideas that this movie has in it, that I find very, very fascinating and really, really exciting when I saw them all, at the beginning of the movie when they started introducing all these things. I was like, wow, that's going to go in an interesting direction. This will go in an interesting direction. I'm interested to see what they're going to do with this whole Spanish Civil War angle. I keep wanting to say Spanish-American War. There's so many different ideas bouncing around in this movie, and I think it handles at least its main plot very well. However, those side plots, at times, when you get to the end of the movie, you wonder how necessary it was for them to have gone to the length they were, only to be dropped for such a long period of time until they came back into the story, or in some cases never returned to the story. And that was something that I battled with when watching this film, especially because the subplot that I think I found the most interesting was the Spanish Civil War subplot. I actually had wished that was more like half of the film, rather than being like a quarter of the film being focused on it. That really kind of affected my viewing experience, because I did actually think it was going to be a bigger part of the film, because it was set up as such a important thing. But I actually found myself feeling like the story itself was lacking, making that part of it a necessity and at the forefront, which I found a little odd, right? It felt like a narrative thread that showed up, was made to sound very important and be very important, and then disappeared for a long time, and then only came back like basically at the end of the film, for a very good ending to the movie, and a really, really refreshing ending, because I also felt like the film was kind of getting very slow towards the end of the second act and the beginning of the third act as a whole. So, I think that's ultimately like maybe the biggest issue I have with this movie, is that, there's a lot of very interesting ideas in this movie that I don't think all work the best that they can, and ultimately that kind of puts a narrative drag on the story, especially when the main plot of the story is very interesting in and of itself, and then ultimately slows down after a very crucial revelation in the film, where they ultimately could have probably gone and spent more time in any of those stories instead of this sort of elongated resolution, if you will, to the main plot itself. So, Parallel Mothers, did I like this movie? I did. I did enjoy the movie. Would I watch it again anytime soon? I'm not sure. Maybe to show to somebody else. I would love to see somebody else's reaction to this movie. But as far as just watching the movie on its own and, seeing it for the first time, and for it being my first Almodovar movie, I was impressed by many aspects. I felt that obviously some of the narrative of the film was a little messy, and that was a little disappointing in and of itself, but I don't think I wasted my time. I think you guys should see this, though. It's a small movie. Foreign movies don't necessarily do well in the United States. If you're in another country and they're showing this, please go see it. Though I would love to see what everybody else's sort of takes on this is, because I think there's a lot going on in the movie, and there's a lot to dissect, and there's a lot to analyze. Especially concerning how all these plots are meant to fit together and what they mean, because there's a lot of sort of class politics going on in the film at the same time as there is this main story just about motherhood itself. So please, thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. I really, really appreciate it. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this movie if you've seen it. Please let me know any movies that you may have seen that you think were really great that you saw recently in the comments below. I'm hoping to see a couple more movies from 2021 that I didn't get to see just because they hadn't gotten wide releases in the United States at the time. Specifically The Worst Person in the World and Gaspar Noé's Vortex. So rest be assured that there will definitely be reviews for those movies on this channel once I get to see them. Thank you guys so much. And once again, check the link below for my podcast. I do have a podcast, EDTALKSFILM. Please go listen to those episodes. I'll be doing some more episodes coming soon. There's 2 of them now and an introductory episode. Thank you guys very much, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.